Hello, I'm Jana from Sydney Visa. In this video, I want to give a quick overview of the changes to the Australian migration policy that occurred during 2020, and I would also like to discuss the upcoming amendments to the immigration landscape in 2021. This video is long, so as the year 2020 had been fruitful with change, so please bear with me and try to watch the video till the end because some quite important information at the end of the video. In March 2020, following the announcement of the worldwide pandemic, the Australian government decided to close Australian borders. From this day, only Australian citizen, permanent residents, New Zealand citizen permanently residing in Australia, and the closest relatives of Australian citizens and PR residents could enter Australia. This meant that many temporary work and student visa holders were unable to return to Australia, and many of these people still have not returned and still are stranded overseas. The Global Talent Independent Visa had been introduced in May 2020. This program had become one of the most promising and fastest permanent residency visas in Australian history, but only for those with expert skills in the respective industries. You can see those industries on the screen now. We have filmed a detailed video about the requirements to this program. I will leave the link to this video in the description for you to have a look. In July 2020, the Australian States and Territories Nomination Program for financial year 2021 was temporarily closed. This caused a pessimistic mood among our viewers, the colleagues, and many bloggers. Many have stopped or postponed their migration plans due to this announcement, but we do not believe this was the right decision. The fact is that the program was closed due to Australian government not providing the migration quota to the states and territories for the financial year. Because of this, the states could not issue nominations for subclass visas 190 and 491. So in order for the states to issue those for the government to issue the migration quotas to the states, they needed to approve their state budget for the financial year. But because of the pandemic, because they couldn't meet, and some other reasons, the approval of the budget was postponed till October 2020. So despite this, the department continued to issue invitations for skilled visas, but to a very narrow list of professions. These were mostly related to medicine, looking after the elderly, and there were some engineers in them. Actually, interestingly, the invitations were issued to the candidates with quite a low point scores, which suggests that the invitations were issued based on the profession, sort of almost purely, rather than a number of points. Here I want to draw your attention to the fact that we're not always able to update you with Australian migration news via YouTube, because it just takes a bit longer to obviously create the video. So, but we do announce our news on our all the news on our social media. So I will leave the links to our social media networks, namely Facebook and Instagram. So the most important documents and information is always posted there in a timely manner. So do subscribe to those feeds just to be kept in the loop. And the most important things, we always film a video here on the YouTube channel. So please don't forget to subscribe. In September 2020, some states and territories began to open their skill nomination program, and also they started opening up their investor and business programs. Some states and quotas for migration have also been announced. Holders of temporary business visas 188 were allowed to enter Australia, which ultimately meant that they were equated in importance to citizens and permanent residents of Australia. Also in September, the federal government announced a 5-year visa for Hong Kong passport holders, those who were on student or 482 visas. In October 2020, the total migration figure for the financial year 2021 has been announced at 160,000. The figure remained the same as the previous year and it didn't change. We were all expecting Australia to scale back on its migration program due to the COVID-19 and the associated economic turmoil. Nonetheless, the program has not been reduced, but on contrary has acquired quantitative changes due to the fact that some of the quotas of the main flows of immigrations have been changed significantly. So some flows have increased and some have been reduced. So which have been increased? Quite a big change was for the Global Talent Program. So the quota tripled from 5,000 to 15,000 places. Another one saw increase is the business business innovations and investment program, which doubled from 6,800 to 13,500. Also, family stream has increased because of that we've been sort of filming quite a lot of. There've been a lot of changes. We've been filming a lot of videos and posting a lot of things on this topic, but it increased to 77,300 places, and that's doubled from 47 or so thousand previous year. Within this figure, the overwhelming number of 72,000 places were reserved for partner visas. So yes, so the spouses and fiancés, and that sort of increased by almost an increase from the previous year, but 81%. Most of the skilled programs, that's visas 189, 190 and 491, so the reduction in the allocated quotas, and some were reduced by up to 50%, which was unfortunate for some. Also in October, the department's priorities for migration for the next year became quite clear. So the priorities were distributed in the following order. So first is the priority visas related to COVID-19 and dealing with the pandemic. Second was the business visas, so the subclass 188. Then third is visas for critical skill and priority migration skill occupation list. Yeah, so it's those medical professions and so forth. I can leave a link to this priority list again in the description here. Then fourth is the regional programs, so that's your 491 visas and 494 and so forth. And the last one is the remaining skilled flow visas, and that's 189 and 190. This is certainly an unpleasant news for those who have planned their program based on the skill visas and the point test, especially for those whose professions are not on the priority lists. Having received a positive qualification assessment and acquired an English level certificate and proven their work experience, these applicants may find that the visa that they're applying for is more difficult to obtain and more difficult than they expected. In this situation, it'll be more difficult for some to get the visa, and on the contrary, for others it will be easier. So if you do have lots of points and you're a really outstanding candidate, you will still get your invitation. In late November 2020, 63 international students have arrived in Darwin as part of a probationary process to open Australia for the international students in 2021. The results of this test probation have not been announced to us yet, so there is no news as to when the students will return to Australia yet, but as soon as there is information available, we will definitely advise you. So what awaits in 2021? Everybody's probably wondering when the borders to Australia will be opened. Unfortunately, we do not have an answer to this question. I don't think the Australian government has a firm and a definite answer to this question, but it was made clear that the borders will not open until at least March 2021. Some major changes have been announced to the business stream visas. Business and investment migration program will be simplified from 9 current streams to only 4. namely business innovation, then entrepreneur, investor, and significant investor. So this will be the 4 streams. With visa 132, which led straight to the permanent residence and was quite popular with a lot of our clients, is cancelled, and the eligibility for the criteria for 188 visas have been increased. Thus, the requirements for holders of the Business Innovation 188A visa will be increased to attract migrants with the proven business skills. The Business Innovation visa holders will need to own 1.25 million in business assets, so it's up from the current 800,000, and have an annual turnover of 750,000, and that's up from the current 500,000. This criteria has been in place since 2012 and has not changed since. The 200,000 funding threshold required for the entrepreneur applicants, 188E, will be removed. So applicants for this visa will need to be approved by the state or territory government. It is assumed that the business visa will be issued for 5 years, during which the applicant must prove that they meet the visa criteria. After that, applicants will be able to apply for a subsequent permanent resident visa. All information on the new rules and criteria for the business visas is not available yet, so we don't have the entire picture. The full details are expected to be released early this year. So as soon as the detailed information is available, we will publish a video explaining those changes and explaining a new program. So don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so you get notification. In July 2021, a new condition for obtaining partner visa is expected to be introduced. The requirement level is the required level of English. Yep. So far there has been no official statement as to what level will be required of English in order to receive the visa. But the new rules may mandate the need to take the language test for the holders of the temporary visas, right? So that is, it will be necessary to show the level of English at the time of applying for your permanent residency. The format and the complexity of the exam or test has not been developed, but most likely it will be you will be required a functional English, which is equivalent to IELTS 4.5. The most interesting part of this is that sponsors for the spousal visas will also have to show the level of English, but this will be applicable only to the PR residents who are sponsoring a wife or husband, not the citizens. So if you are a citizen and bringing somebody across, you would need to show the test. The department also introduced an additional visa, or rather a visa extension, for graduates of Australian regional universities. Currently, the 485 graduate visa is issued to graduates of Australian universities for a period of 2 years, in some cases for 4 years. Starting from 21st of January 2021, regional Australian graduates who have lived in the region for 2 years after graduation, so on their first 485 visa, will be able to extend their graduate visa for another 1 or 2 years. The purpose of this is to encourage international students to study in regional Australia on a student visa and continue to live in a regional Australia on a temporary graduate visa. It was assumed that the list of professions for the skill migration will be amended in March 21, but it looks like this will be delayed. We're not expecting any changes to the list at the moment. In terms of nominations, to date, many Australian states have opened their applications for nominations, but so far not one state have opened to accept applications from offshore candidates. So currently only onshore candidates are able to apply for nominations in quite a few states. As stated above, the Australian borders will likely not open until at least March 2021. Our assumption, and that's purely an assumption, is that the states might begin accepting applications from offshore candidates in the next financial year, so hopefully sometime from July 2021. Let me remind you though that in order to qualify for the state or regional nomination, you need to have a skilled assessment and an English certificate or a passport from an English-speaking country. If you're planning to migrate to Australia, don't wait for the states to open to begin the process. Start the process now with your skill assessment. It's valid from 2 to 3 years, depending on the profession. But this way, when the applications become open, the states open up for offshore candidates, you will be ready with your skill certificate and English certificate. In order to check if you qualify for the skill migration program or any other program, you can fill out a questionnaire on our website, send this to us, and we'll provide you free advice about your visa eligibility. I'll leave the link to the questionnaire in the description to this video. That's it for now. Please don't forget to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and please share this video with your friends. And cheers from down under. Goodbye.